occurs, with a special shout out to the courageous work of anti-child abuse activist and filmmaker Bill Maloney of the UK of Pie and Mash Films, the Jimmy Savile scandal, actor Corey Feldman's proclamation about pedophilia in Hollywood, the Church of God cult that victimized the late Hollywood star River Phoenix, a man of my generation, the Presidio military daycare scare scandal of the 1980s, which is still being exposed very diligently and meticulously by Douglas Dietrich, the standard medical procedure of male infant genital circumcision in the United States and among several religious traditions of Jews and Muslims alike, and of course the female genital mutilation that goes on in sub-Saharan Africa, various CIA mind control projects and other mind control projects in governments, which include Operation Paperclip, MK Ultra, and Project Monarch, detailed by Kathy O'Brien and Mark Phillips. The great multi-million-dollar lawsuit victory over the Boy Scouts of America from my own generation in the Portland metropolitan area that were damn lucky to have their abusers caught and squeal. And each and every current prostitution ring worldwide involving human trafficking, child prostitution, and moreover slavery, human slavery. Not exactly overt chattel slavery, but still slavery. With every sick, motherfucking, complacent pig, pimp, prick, cunt, madam, and asshole, and any other underworld organized crime ring involved. May each and every one of these criminally negligent, disgusting, evil, son of a bitch, motherfuckers, scum of the earth, vile, monstrous people all go eat shit and die a horrible death of their worst fucking nightmares. Each and every one of these scandals, every great child abuse scandal always involves a great sales pitch for better opportunity. The greatest sales pitch for all organized religions and all business propositions is opportunity for better family life. The sales pitch for the Baha'i marriage and better family life is the principle of family unity and chastity. And the people who push that sales pitch have proven to be completely the contrary of those phrases to me. An ex-Mormon who was raised Mormon once described this sales pitch in Mormonism as the phrase families forever. Baha'i law requires parental consent for marriage. Each man and woman who considers marriage must thoroughly investigate and negotiate each other's parents and get permission from all four parents so marriage will be successful and survive, so that there will be no lustful flings and that only sex that ever happens is loving, monogamous, heterosexual sex inside marriage between an adult consenting husband and an adult consenting wife. Let me say that again. Baha'i law requires parental consent for marriage. Each man and woman who considers marriage must thoroughly investigate and negotiate each other's parents and get permission from all four parents so marriage will be successful and survive, so that there will be no lustful flings, no adultery, and that only sex that ever happens is loving, monogamous, heterosexual sex between adult consenting husband and wife, with all children well planned being brought into the world occurring, thereby fostering family unity, chastity, and fidelity. There is nothing inherently wrong with such a thorough accountability and planning involved. However, the reality of Baha'i marriage parental consent law, at least in my case and in many others where the parents are criminally negligent to their own children, the burden of proof that these parents were criminally negligent rests entirely on their victimized children, who often cannot prove a damn thing by the time they are adults and aware of what went wrong. The child is surrounded by people in complete denial who all choose to bury their fucking heads in the fucking sand. I don't know how many times I need to repeat the parents of the Baha'i community from where I was raised and all the people responsible for children that were adults at the time, and a lot of others, all buried their fucking heads in the sand. The only way around the parental consent law is when the parents are either dead or declared unworthy by the Baha'is' Universal House of Justice, a committee of 9 men, often thousands of miles away in Haifa, Israel, who cannot possibly know much of anything about the circumstances in such cases. Under Baha'i law, there is no lawful sex act outside of monogamous heterosexual marriage with parental consent in the Baha'i faith. Yet Baha'u'llah himself was polygamous, who was more than willing to take advantage of his elitist Persian royal privileges and customs of extra wives. Baha'u'llah's aristocratic royal elitist penis of Muslim tradition was worthy of the exclusive privileges of inhabiting 3 vaginas. 3 vaginas which were not to be entered for sexual pleasure by anyone else other than from his elitist penis. Well, maybe he had other kinds of kinky sex with his wives, but you get the point that he had 3 wives, and I think there's a little bit of disparity of cock for the 2 other wives. It's not like found any tablets of Baha'u'llah having 3 dicks to satisfy him all at the same time or anything, or an exceptionally long tongue. His hereditary elitist penis of the aristocracy. Although the Baha'is will point out that Baha'u'llah's successor, his primogeniture eldest son, was completely monogamous and faithful to Baha'u'llah's daughter-in-law, I can never again accept Baha'u'llah's polygamy as anything other than blatant hypocrisy. I am not a beta male for this fucking alpha male god. When the condition of marriage is so dependent on the permission of parents, regardless of their integrity, there is no real difference between arranged marriage from conservative Islamic cultures, European aristocracy, and various other antiquated cultures of the world. I do not consent to this cock-blocking bullshit. Absolutely no one chooses their own parents, and no one should be condemned by them either. But in the brutal competitiveness of elitist scum of the earth, controlling the population, trying to control the population at least, with eugenics pedigree schemes from the likes of Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood, Malthus, and selective Darwinism, the great religious laws of chastity, and all the bullshit, terrorizing people with fear, terrorizing children with fear of falling short of ideals, can easily be exploited into cruel competitive strategy. The worst sexual abuse, pedophilia, always was and always will be mostly from puritanical societies that obsessively stigmatizes undesirable sexual relations and sex acts to the point of blaming the victims, keeping innocent victims silent, and the crimes continuing for multiple generations spanning eons. Pedophilia, homosexual coercion, prostitution, and all the twisted, sick recruitment involved are all very ancient, dirty tricks of cruel, heterosexual competition. The greatest homophobes are also the greatest heterophobes, and the greatest heterophobes are also the greatest homophobes. Homophobia and heterophobia complement each other. Pedophiles flourish in organized religions. For what better way to eliminate competition than to exploit the opponent's children's fear of the stigma of an unlawful sex act and convince the victim he is at fault and that he is an inferior human being, a less than human, unworthy to breed, unworthy to mate. The Baha'i faith has proven itself to me to be another version of this same old dirty trick. Baha'i parental consent law, in at least my case, has proven itself to be a disgusting eugenics pedigree scheme, colloquially known as cock blocking. Cock blocking is a bestial, brutal, primitive reality of either becoming or groveling to the cruelest, greatest prick stud and cunt queen at the top of the pyramid scheme. The prickriarch and the countryarch, the alpha male and the alpha female. I do not grovel to your cock-blocking god and goddess anymore. Never again will I grovel to your cock-blocking god and goddess. When describing gender imbalance or gender dominance, I do not like to use the words patriarchy nor matriarchy because those are cop-out terms which insist one gender rules over the other, turning a blind eye to the underlying gender imbalance where both genders suffer as a result of any imbalance. Countryarchy and prickriarchy seem better for the perversion of life and genitalia. Within so-called patriarchy there is matriarchy, and within matriarchy there is patriarchy, where both genders suffer at the hands of the other gender dominating them all. It takes two to tango. Within patriarchy there is matriarchy, and within matriarchy there is patriarchy, where both genders suffer at the hands of the other gender dominating them unjustly. Within the Baha'i faith, I have witnessed both matriarchy and patriarchy, prickriarchy and countryarchy, and no gender balance whatsoever. Growing up in the Baha'i faith, I was at the mercy of dysfunctional families practicing prickriarchy, countryarchy, and not much of equality of the sexes nor gender balance at all. Growing up in the Baha'i faith as a child, I was at the mercy of adult Baha'is who were a complete joke and mockery of each and every Baha'i ideals ever. The contrast of the ideals of the Baha'i faith and the pitifulness of the people in it was unbearable for me. It's still unbearable to me, and it's still a fucking cruel joke. Yet I cling to it and remained under Stockholm Syndrome because I thought I would be rescued from the joke. Growing up in the Baha'i faith as a child, I was at the mercy of adults who were publicly respectable, extroverted, outgoing, and charismatic people within the faith who actively loved to teach the message of Baha'u'llah, yet privately had some of the most consistently frigid, fake marriages of convenience where at least one of the spouses was a pushover while the other lived to repulse and control the other with his or her own addictions. These so-called Baha'i marriages were nothing more than hostage situations, some of which last and are continuing to last well over 40 years until death does them part. I wouldn't trade my protracted, extended, miserable celibacy for one day of their fucked up pussy whip bullshit situations. In the Baha'i faith, growing up as a child and teenager, I've experienced and witnessed horrible dynamics within long-term marriages between men and women lasting several decades, of women who submissively flock to the cocks of some of the most abusive, dominating, perverted, alcoholic, pig prick pedophiles ever, and of men who are pussy whip pushovers stuck with hideously, morbidly fucked up cunt wives who are so lost with their unresolved child victimizations that it's quite clear to me that they live for no other reason than to sexually repulse men with their fat fucking junk food and other addictions. Baha'is are oh so fond of promising a great new world order of gender balance, equality of the sexes, and advocating women's rights, prioritizing the education of girls over boys so the girls can grow up and be better mothers and the primary educators of children, where men and women become two wings of one bird and every child has a loving mother and father, but being the successor religion and hereditary latest greatest manifestation of a God of